In part 1, we covered the steps to create a criteria file. Now we will demonstrate the ST summary analysis. So that completes the 3 main parts of a criteria file that we need. So we have a question that we have proposed now, from the example ST example studies that we chose. We picked those 4 treatments that we're interested in, and here we defined what type of assessments we want to take a look at. And so now we can actually run a summary on it and kind of see what we get. And so we can do that from the Tools menu and Begin Summary. And here's just an overview again of the pieces that we have included. So we have 4 treatments defined, 1 assessment data criteria column, and then our 6 trials to search. So we'll click OK to run the analysis. Pulling all of this information in together to give us our analysis. And here is a summary. We have some columns that aren't meeting our assumptions of AOV. Not too big of a concern at this point in time. The biggest thing would be to review these information sections where it shows all 6 of our studies matched. And then also we had 6 trials that were tested then, 6 of them matched, and we ended up with 8 match columns, which we'll see here in a second what that actually means. But that shows that nothing got dropped out, nothing got missed by our question that we proposed. If we had defined some treatment that wasn't, or one of the studies didn't have any of the treatments we chose, or didn't have any assessment columns that we had picked, then we could see something where a certain study did not match, and that would be an indication that we're losing some of those studies, but maybe not necessarily if we asked the right question. It just didn't have any matches. So this dialog displays the heart of the analysis, really. So here we have this blue column here. Number 1 is our first grand mean column. So it kind of defines exactly what was matched in our assessment header here that we defined in the criteria. And then it gives us our grand means for each of our treatments that we defined. And then to the right, we have 4 white columns, and these are the individual trials that were combined into this grand mean. So you can see the trial IDs are at the top there to kind of show which trials were matched and found for this column. And so these dashes indicate we did run a mean comparison, but no differences were found, or maybe we're running a protected test, so our treatment and by trial interaction is telling us that we shouldn't even run the mean comparisons. We also have a count, which shows that 6 data points went into this grand mean. So although we only have 4 studies here, we may have had maybe several assessments taken of this type, maybe at different timings. We really didn't include any timing aspect to our criteria. So if we went out and did the same assessment 2 different times during that season, they would have both been brought in, which I believe is what would have happened here, since we just have the 4 studies but 6 data points. Whereas in this grand mean, we just had one column and 1 data point. We can also include different statistics for each of these grand means. We'll also see the descriptive statistics for the whole column here in a minute. But all of those type of things, kind of the format of what all is included on this report, can all be edited in the options here. And so very similar to the AOV report in ARM, there's a whole lot of options for tweaking things and getting them to be the way you would want them to be. Let's just turn off the minimum maximum. Let's keep the standard deviation on the grand means. Our trial columns, those are helpful to visualize. We can choose what descriptive statistics to include with the column. Many different options to tweak and play with to see that, to get things the way you would want them to be set. And when we click OK, it's going to just kind of regenerate that report. This is a little bit shorter now that we got rid of all those minimum and maximums. A little bit easier to read, hopefully. And so we can see as we scroll across that we had several different matches. And so that's kind of that match and separate wildcard. We can see that there's different pests. So our common lamb's quarters versus large crabgrass, we wanted to separate those out because we don't, we want to see how those behave differently. We don't really want to combine them all into one grand mean. The redwood pigweed had one match. The common barnyard grass had matches in 4 of the studies. Looks like each of them we must have rated twice. Things of that nature. We can kind of scroll down and see, and we could tweak our assessment data criteria if we wanted. So if we really weren't too interested in seeing these separately, maybe we don't really care what the pest was, and we just want them all to be combined together to see what happens. It's as simple as just canceling here, and we could go in and remove those criteria. So now we don't want to match on the pest name or the pest code, and we'll have everything just combined together. So I'll use the shortcut here for begin summary, and we'll just run it all again. Kind of re-ask the question. We asked it a little bit differently this time, and we'll see what we get here. And so now we just have one grand mean column because we combined all of the different pests that we had looked at. So now there was 41 data points that go into these grand means. Whether this makes any sense or not, it's kind of up to you, kind of up to your own data as what you want to look for. But really the big thing is, we're just asking questions here, so you can always tweak it and ask it a little bit differently and see a different analysis. That it's not affecting your data. It's really just a view of the analysis. So there's a lot of power to that, of just being able to tweak and go back and forth and kind of play around with different questions of, well, what about this, or what if we look at it in this direction that ST can provide.